Good morning, second chance. Why don't you stand on your feet and let's worship together today. Come on, here we go. I can't count the times I've called your name some broken night. You showed up, patched me up like you do every time. I get amnesia, I forget that you keep coming around. Yeah, there ain't no way you'll ever let me down. And good God Almighty, and I hope you'll find me praising your name no matter what comes. 'Cause I know where I'd be without your mercy. So I keep praising your name at the top of my lungs. Tell me, is he good? He's good. Tell me, is he God? He's God. He is good God Almighty. You say your love goes on forever, that your mercy never stops. So why would I assume you'll be somebody that you're not? Like the sun in the morning, I know you're gonna be there every day. So what on earth can make me be afraid? Good God Almighty, and I hope you'll find me praising your name no matter what comes. 'Cause I know where I'd be without your mercy. So I keep praising your name at the top of my lungs. Tell me, is he good? He's good. Tell me, is he God? He's God. He is good God Almighty. Praise him in the morning, praise him in the noontime, praise him when the sun goes down. Love him in the morning, love him in the noontime, love him when the sun goes down. Good God Almighty, and I hope you'll find me praising your name no matter what comes. 'Cause I know where I'd be without your mercy. So I keep praising your name at the top of my lungs. Tell me, is he good? He's good. Tell me, is he God? He's God. He is good God Almighty. Jesus in the morning, Jesus in the noontime, Jesus when the sun goes down. Jesus in the morning, Jesus in the noontime, Jesus when the sun goes down. Come on, you know he's good this morning. We're going to continue to worship this morning. We're going to sing about how no matter how much we go through, whether we're in a high in life or whether we're in a low, that we still serve a great God, and he's good to us. He's God in the mountain, and he's God in the valley. But he's consistent, he's always there. So let's sing this together.
Oh, how high would I climb mountains if the mountains were where you hide? Oh, how far I'd scale the valleys if you grace the other side. And oh, how long have I chased rivers from lonely seas to where they rise? Against the rush of grace descending from the source of its supply. 'Cause in the highlands and the heartache, you neither more or less inclined. I would search and stop at nothing. You're just not that hard to find. I will praise you on the mountains. I will praise you when the mountains in my way. You're the praise your kindness, extend the path where your fear is on the sunrise to where you sweep the sinners past. And how fast would you come running if just a shadow me through the night? Trace my steps through all my failures and walk me out the other side. For who could dare ascend that mountain, that valid hill called Calvary? But for the one I call Good Shepherd, who like a lamb was slain for me. I will praise you in the mountains. Come on. I will praise you in the mountains in my way. You're the summit where my feet are. So I will praise you in the valleys all the same. And no less God within the shadows. And no less faithful when the night leads me astray. You're the heaven where my heart is. In the highlands and the high all the same. Whatever I walk through, wherever I am, your name can move mountains wherever I stand. And if ever I walk through the valley of death, I'll sing in the shadow, my song will sing. Whatever I walk through, wherever I am, your name can move mountains wherever I stand. And if ever I walk through the shadow, I'll sing through the shadows, my song will sing. My song will sing. My song will From the deepest of all valleys come the pastures we call grace, a mighty river flowing upwards from a deep and empty grave. Come on, sing it out, church. I will praise you on the mountain. I will praise you in the mountains in my way. You're the summit where my feet are. So I will praise you in the valleys all the same. You're no less God within the shadows, no less faithful when the night leads me astray. You're the heaven where my heart is. In the highlands and the high all the same.
Somebody you don't know and just tell them hello and it's good to see them and give them a big smile. Might be the first one they had all day. And then you can be seated. You know, it was weird. Philip got Georgia tickets this week, Georgia, Kentucky, and he asked me did I want to go to the game. And I
tried.
Do what?
I tried.
But you went. You had a good time.
Yeah.
Did they cheer Let's Go Brandon?
No,
I'm just asking.
they did not.
Did you start
I might have heard it.
You started it, didn't you?
No, I did not.
No,
do
it's
that.
Georgia. They said the real thing. Anyway, super glad that you're here today. Woo! Can't believe we crossed the Let's Go Brandon line right there, right out of the gate, right out of worship. Anyway,
Praise the Lord.
we are in the house of God today, and we are glad that you are here. If this is your first time at Second Chance, you picked a great Sunday to show up. And if this is your first time, Immediately following the service, right out these doors to the right, there's a first-timers area that looks just like this. And I'm going to be back there. I would love a chance to get to meet you. Once again, if this is your, we called somebody last week. You've been coming for a year, and you snuck in, and we caught you, all right? So, no, seriously, if you've been coming for about a week or two and you haven't had a chance to stop by there yet, I would love a chance to get to meet you and find out a little bit more about your story and what brought you here and hopefully what's going to keep you here, because we've got a great thing going here at Second Chance. Speaking of great things going, in a couple of weeks we got Halloween, and we're listen, I love Halloween because it's all about the candy. I love candy. You can teach your kids about tithing with candy. You can teach your kids about giving generous offerings. We're going to have a Halloween bash here from 4 to 6 on the Saturday night before Halloween, so on the 30th, and it's grade school, so you bring your babies all the way through grade school. We're going to give them candy. We got the good size candy bar, so we're super excited about it. And then tonight, we're doing this throughout this series. We're doing something called One More Thing. On your outline, you notice you got 2 outlines. The first one, you got Shake It Off. We're going to do that this morning. And then tonight, we got 5 lies that, if believed, will stop our spiritual growth. Now, this is going to be tonight at 5 o'clock. There's no music or anything. We go straight into teaching. I teach for about an hour. It's not broadcast online, so you got to be in the room. And if you missed it last week, you missed a really, really good time. And tonight, we're going to talk about something that, listen, if you believe these 5 lies that we're going to talk about tonight, it literally stops spiritual growth. I wanted to make one announcement. We don't have a slide for this. How many of you in the room, and I'm just going to do a quick survey, how many in the room have ever heard of a gentleman by the name of Charlie Kirk? You've heard of Charlie Kirk, okay? Okay, about half the room. He's going to be here on Tuesday, November the 2nd at 7 o'clock. We're having an event with Charlie. He's a godly man that loves Jesus, and we're going to be doing a Q&A. It's going to be a lot of fun. So if you know who he is, you will be excited, and if you don't know who he is, you will on Tuesday, November 2nd, because he's a fireball. He intimidates me a little bit, all right? But I'm older than him, so I'll tell him to respect his elders. Last but not least, for those of you that give, thank you so much for the way that you give. It's absolutely making a difference, and it's going to continue to make a difference here at Second Chance as we step into 2022 with more opportunities in front of us than we know what to do with. So for those of you that give every week, thank you for giving. It's making a difference. If you brought cash or check today, you can put it in the offering boxes when you walk out the doors at every exit. And yeah, that's about it. Y'all stand with me and let's pray and really prepare our hearts for this next song. Jesus, may you use this next song to absolutely meet us where we are. We know the words of this song we're about to lift up to you are words that, God, some of us have just needed to express all week long. May we not take this lightly. God, may we offer you the very best we have over these next few moments in worship. And we ask this, Jesus, in your name.
I just can't believe where my life was at. All that I know is my heart was broken. I don't ever wanna go back. There ain't no explanation how I saw the light. But he found me and he set me free and he brought me back to life. Blame it on the transformation, changed down to the core. This love is real and I can't sit still, cause my name's not shame no more, no more. Great God Almighty, change me. Great God Almighty, change me. You gotta shake, 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 like you change, change, change. Brand new look so good on you, so shake like you've been changed. Come on, shake, shake like you change, shake, shake like you change. Maybe he came to you when everything seemed fine. Or maybe your world was upside down and hit you right between your eyes. No matter how it happened, 7 or 95, move your feet cause you are free and you'll never be more alive. change me. Great God Almighty, change me.
That's good, wasn't it? Just reminded me before I get in this message that white people don't know how to clap. We don't. We clap for like 3 bars, and then we're just like, I don't know what to do with my hands. Anyway. Hey, we're in a series called Church Hurt, and yesterday I spent most of my day, as I'm sure many of you, probably not all of you, but many of you, how many watched football yesterday? You watched a little bit of football? Okay, yeah. Now, it reminded me of, because people talk to me all the time about football, and they say, did you ever play? And I did. I played 2 years and then retired because I just couldn't. I lacked 2 things, athletic ability and skill. Other than that, I was a pretty good player. Now, I can remember, though, my first year going out for football. Now, listen, this was 40 years ago. And for those of you that weren't around 40 years ago, it was a different era. And in fact, it was almost a different planet. And so I can remember being at football practice, and it was my first year, and it was about halfway through the year, and I played nose guard. Now, the reason nose guard is a position on defense. You play right in the middle, and I didn't play nose guard because I was the best player. I played nose guard because I was the biggest, and I could just stop people. And so I wasn't that good, but I remember one day in practice where I got past the center. He had snapped the ball. The quarterback was getting ready to hand the ball to the tailback, and I had a straight shot at him. Now, if you've ever played defense, and listen, I have this thing in me where when I played football or something and I saw where I was going to hit somebody, I got really excited about I was like, this is going to be amazing. I'm going to blow his world up. I'm going to hit him so hard, his grandchildren aren't going to know who they are. I mean, this is going to be the greatest day of my life. And I could, like when the quarterback handed him the ball, I can still see his eyes through his helmet because he saw that I was bearing down on him, and his eyes got huge. And right as I was about to hit him, I experienced my very first blindside block. Now, when I say blindside, a blindside is a block that you don't see coming. The fullback saw that I was going to hit him, and so the fullback came in from this side, and I never saw him coming. And he hit me so hard that I can remember looking, like I got hit. I'm flat in the air. I'm looking as my feet are going up in the air. My head is going down, and I'm thinking, this is going to hurt. And so my head hit the ground. My helmet went over this eye. So this eye was blocked. I thought I was blind in one eye. My head was ringing. I'm 99.9% sure I had a concussion. But once again, this was 40 years ago. My football coach did not come up and hug me and tell me I was a snowflake. He did not bring me a latte. He did not give me a hug. My coach runs over to me. Some of you will remember this because your coach did this to you. He picked me up by my face mask. He reaches and grabs me by my face mask. And he's a strong man. I get to my feet. He looks at me dead in the eye, and he goes, hey, and he shook my head. I've already got a concussion at this point. He said, hey, shake it off. And I'm in 5th grade, and I'm a very literal person. And I'm like, we were just out of the 70s, so I didn't know if I was supposed to do this or like and for the rest of the day, I was dazed. I didn't really know who I was or where. I remember going and getting my dad's truck. My dad was there at practice, and he goes, got your bell rung, didn't you? Yes, sir. He goes, yeah. What'd your coach say to you? He says, shake it off. He's like, yeah, that's good advice. I was like, I still don't know what that means, shake it off. What it basically meant was get over it. It's football. And so I've never forgotten that phrase, shake it off, because getting blindsided was not something that I was prepared for. But the best advice I got was shake it. The next day I went back out football, and I kept playing. Now, the reason I bring that up is to not talk about my excellent football skills. It's to acknowledge the fact that there are people in this room or even watching online, you've experienced a blind side too, but it wasn't in football. It was in life. Like you went into work and you got blindsided by the boss saying, I need to have a conversation with you. You came home and got blindsided by the divorce papers. You got blindsided by the text message. You got blindsided by the email. You got blindsided by the betrayal. You got blindsided by something, whether it was last week or last month or 10 years ago, and it still hurts. I want to acknowledge the fact that there are some people in this room and watching online that are legitimately carrying around hurt. Hurt that no matter what people say, no matter what people do, it's just hurt that keeps bubbling up to the surface. And you came to church today and you're wondering what I'm going to tell you about your hurt. And here's what I'm going to tell you. Shake it off. Now, some people are like, well, that's a little bit insensitive. No. It would be insensitive if I just said shake it off and we prayed and you left. Today, I want to walk you through how to shake it off, because it's going to be one of those things that keeps making a circle in our life. And if we're not careful, it will entrap us and rob all of our joy. So today, we're going to talk about how to shake it off. And I'm going to do it by walking through a story. And we're going to look at this story tonight too. But we'll walk through a story about a guy named Jacob and about another guy named Esau. Now, typically, if you're from a church background, Jacob gets a lot of press. We don't talk about Esau that much, but today we're going to speak about Esau. Now, this is the story of their birth, and this is how you know it's going to get a little weird, okay? Here we go. We're told in the book of Genesis, chapter 25, and when the time came to give birth, Rebekah discovered, now that's their mama, Jacob and Esau's mama, her name is Rebekah, discovered that she did indeed have twins. How would you love to discover that you were having twins as you were giving birth? Like today, we got like gender reveal parties and, you know, if you're having twins or triplets, how would you love to be on the table, ladies, and you just delivered your first baby and the doctor goes, now it's time for number two. Your husband would probably be like, speaking of number two, I'm going to take it. Anyway, so there we go. Verse 25. The first one was very red at birth and covered with thick hair like a fur coat. Let me pause real quick and say, there are people in this room, babies are so beautiful when they're born. No, they're not. They look like aliens. They are ugly. You just don't know whether to hug it or smack it. I'm just telling you, if you've ever been in the room with a baby, my baby was beautiful. You were on an epidural and high, and your husband was smoking weed. Okay, so we're just going to acknowledge the fact. That's weird when the baby is wearing a fur coat coming out, okay? So they named him Esau, which means hair. How would you like that name? You think you got screwed on your name? Esau got messed up, okay? And then the other twin was born with his hand grasping Esau's heel. How weird is that? You know, you got the hand on the heel. So they named him Jacob, which means deceiver. Hi, my name's Rebecca. These are my two sons, Hair and Deceiver. You think other moms in the neighborhood let them play? No. Jacob and Isaac Isaac was 60 years old when the twins were born. So dad's 60 when the twins were born. Typically, this is when you become a grandfather, but Isaac, we're just going to be a dad, and we're just going to do it right. We're going to have twins. Now, here's where the problem develops. It's a little bit of sibling rivalry. I'll explain this. Watch this. As the boys grew up, Esau became a skillful hunter. He was an outdoorsman, but Jacob had a quiet temperament, preferring to stay at home. So the two boys are different, right? Esau, he wears camo. He wears Levi's. He wears trucker hats. He wears Carhartt boots. He's got a bow and an arrow and a shotgun, a rifle, and a four-wheel drive, and a country boy can survive. And he's out killing stuff. I mean, he's like the man's man. Jacob had acquired, Esau drives a Tundra, right? He drives a man truck. But Jacob, he's at home with his mom, wearing skinny jeans and knitting his own scarf and watching Lifetime Network and driving a Prius. I mean, they're completely different people, okay? Completely. Yeah, I'm just making the Bible come to life, okay? So Isaac loved Esau because he enjoyed eating the wild game Esau brought home. But Rebekah loved Jacob. So you're starting to see a little bit of sibling rivalry, and mom and dad aren't helping that out. So long story short, the boys grow up, and there's some problems in the house that are another message for another time. But basically, we're going to circle around to the dad back in this culture would give a blessing over the family. And his best blessing was reserved for the firstborn son. Now, the firstborn son is Esau. Even though he's firstborn by like 15 seconds, he still was the first out, so he gets the firstborn blessing. And the firstborn blessing was like the best blessing. Like the secondborn, you got a blessing, but it wasn't nearly as good as the firstborn. So Isaac, the dad, he said, you know what, I'm getting ready to die. So he tells Esau, his redneck son, he said, hey, listen, go out and kill some wild game and bring me back my favorite meal, and I'll give you a blessing. So Esau goes out. Well, Rebekah, the wife, hears it, so she goes and tells Jacob, hey, you go in, pretend to be your brother, I'll cook the meal, and you can get the blessing that's reserved for your brother. So long story short, Isaac pronounces this blessing over Jacob, which was supposed to be for Esau. This is the blessing. From the dew of the heaven and the richness of the earth, may God always give you an abundant harvest of grain and bountiful new wine. May many nations become your servants, and may they bow down to you. May you be the master over your brothers. May your mother's sons bow down to you. All who curse you will be cursed, and all who bless you will be blessed. Now, I'm just saying, if you're going to get a blessing from your dad, that's the blessing you want to get. And the blessing was given to Jacob, and it should have gone to Esau. So Jacob leaves. Esau comes in and goes, Dad, I'm here. And Isaac is like, whoa, I thought you were just here, because he didn't have good eyesight and didn't have glasses or whatever. And so basically Esau finds out that Jacob has stole his blessing. And Esau gets upset. Like, he gets super upset. And in fact, he gets so upset, the Bible says Esau pleaded, but do you have only one blessing? Oh, my father, bless me too. Then Esau broke down and wept, which shows us this is a big deal. Esau is distraught that his blessing got stolen, and he's convinced that his life is over. And this is the blessing. Now listen, what I'm about to teach on, I've read 20 or 30 times. Never seen what I'm going to share today. That's why I'm so excited about it. Watch what Isaac tells his son Esau. Finally, his father Isaac said to him, you will live away from the richness of the earth and away from the dew of the heaven above. You will live by your sword, and you will serve your brother. Watch this. But when you decide to break free, you will shake his yoke from your neck. When you decide to break free. Hey, in other words, Esau, life's going to be a little rough. But when you decide to break free, you're going to shake it off. And somebody here needs today, when you decide that you want to live in freedom, that's when you're going to be able to shake it off. What do you need to do to be able to shake it off? There's 3 things I think that need to happen. If you want to write this down, we got those little fill-in-the-blank outlines just for you, all right? And if you don't want to fill in those blanks, fill in the blanks. We paid money for that, all right? Here we go. Number one, we got a decision to make. If we're going to be people that shake off what the enemy tried to put on us to hold us back, we have a decision to make. Now, I don't know how many people in this room, well, let me just say this. There are people in this room that you can't make a decision. There are people in this room, you changed outfits 3 times before you came to church today. You know why? Have a hard time making a decision. There are people in this room that will be paralyzed in the lobby by one question after this service. Where would you like to go eat? You literally have no idea. I don't care. It don't matter. I don't care. It don't matter. Well, let's go. I don't want to go there. That's how that conversation, that's the relationship series for on down the road, all right? But we have problems making decisions. Now, for those of you that are not from South Carolina, because we've had a lot of people move into South Carolina from other states that are kind of turning into whole other countries, but that's a whole other message for a whole other time. But you came to South Carolina because people here like have common sense, and we treat people like adults. Okay, that's enough. I thought, let's go, Brandon. So anyway, I'll stick. So if you're brand new to South Carolina, you've seen something, and I want to explain this to you because if you don't know about this, it could freak you out when you're driving down the road at night. We've got our state animal, I think, is a possum. Now these things are weird, and many of you have seen possums, but you've never seen one like this. You've seen them like that. That's how you see most possums. That's how you notice that they're there, right? Because here's the reason that most of us have never seen a live possum. We've only seen a dead possum. Possums, when they go out into the middle of the road, they don't have good eyesight. They've got an incredible sense of smell, but they don't have good eyesight. So they go out into the road, and if you've ever been driving down the road and your headlights hit a possum, what do? They look up. They run this way, they run this way, they run this way, and then you just plow over them. In fact, you're not even in South Carolina until you plow over one. You don't swerve for them, because if you swerve for them, you can crash the car or whatever. You just plow through one. And that's what they're doing. They're like, they've got great sense of smell, right? They're like, hey, what's that? Diesel? That's the last thing that kind of runs through their mind. But you've seen that, right? They're running. They can't make a decision. And that's what happens to us. Many times in life, when it comes to making the decision whether or not we're going to shake off the hurt, that has happened. Let me acknowledge the hurt has happened. The hurt has taken place. If we're going to shake it off, we get into, well, do I want to shake it off? And there's three things that'll hold us back from making that decision. The first thing is lies. I don't know if you've ever believed a lie, but growing up, my dad would tell a lie to keep me. I remember I used to get out of bed at night. I used to get out of bed, and I would go to the restroom, and I wake up my dad. Dad, there's something outside. I was petrified. I never will forget. One day my dad told me. Now, I don't know why. When I was a kid, I was petrified of bears, scared to death of bears. And one day my dad told me, he said, "Listen, son, I didn't want to tell you this, but there's some bears that live under your bed. I've tried to protect you, but next time you get out of bed, I don't think I can protect you from those bears." I stayed in my bed for 248 days. But now part of that's true. He did tell me there were bears under my bed, and I did stay in my bed for the rest of the night. But here's what's funny. I stayed in my bed the rest of the night because of a lie. There were never actually any bears underneath my bed, but because I believed that lie, I stayed where I was. It's the same thing with some of us in this room, many of us watching online. You will stay where you are in life because somebody told you that's who you are, and it's the only person you'll ever be. Somebody told you you can never break that habit. Somebody told you you could never break that addiction. Do you know, I'll just be honest with you, nobody has hurt you or lied to you more than you. And when we stop deceiving ourselves with lies, saying, this is just who I am, and it's the only person I ever will be, then we're able to break free of the things that Satan tries to attach to our lives to hold us back from the abundant life that Jesus died to give us in the first place. So lies will hold us back. The second thing that holds us back is comfort. I'm going to spend some time here because this one's fun. Comfort. This is my favorite time of year. Favorite time of year. Nothing to do with Halloween. Nothing to do with Thanksgiving. I just love the weather. Somebody asked me the other day, do you love pumpkin spice lattes? No. I don't. I see some of y'all carrying around, and if you're a man, I judge you in my mind a little bit because we all have our problems. But I love the weather. Now, when I was growing up and I was a kid, one day I hope to have this again. This is the time of year, because my dad was very, very hot-natured, and so he always wanted the house cold. We had an attic fan. And you could cut on an attic fan and open the windows, and whatever temperature it was outside, it would be in the house. So if it was 45 degrees outside, it'd be 45 degrees in the house. I loved it. My mom, not so much. Not so much. But I loved it. But you know what the hardest thing was? Every single morning we had on that attic fan, and I had the covers like up to here, like your head sticking out and your nose is like purple, but like you just love it so much. The hardest thing in the world to do was get out of bed, because I was so comfortable. You know what I'm talking about? Some of us in this room have gotten so comfortable with the dysfunction that Satan has attached to us, we've wrapped ourselves up in it. Listen, sometimes being the victim, well, we like that, don't we? Because if we're the victim, people feel sorry for us. If we're the victim, it's not our fault. If we're the victim, we can get everybody's sympathy. And it'll also, you've heard me say it a dozen times, I'll say it a dozen times more, victims never walk in victory. At some point, we got to own our responsibility with what's happened, and we got to move forward and shake it off. Well, Perry, you don't know what happened to me. You're right. But I know what happened to Jesus. And if anybody had the right to play the victim card, it was Jesus. He was falsely arrested, falsely accused, falsely tried, falsely condemned, hung on a cross, but he didn't play the victim card and say, woe is me. 3 days later, he got out of the grave. There's a resurrection that happened, and if he was resurrected, then every single one of us could be resurrected as well. We don't have to play the victim card. We get to, by the power of Christ, shake it off, which leads to number 3, is frustration. Have you ever tried to do something and been unsuccessful? Say yes. How many people go on a diet every January? I'm going on a diet. I'm going on a diet. I'm losing weight. And then you drive by that Hot and Now sign at Krispy Kreme and just kind of sucks you right in. I feel your pain. Last week I played this card to my staff. I said, listen, we meet on Mondays. We have a lunch. I said, it's Pastor Appreciation Month. I sure would appreciate some donuts. And Heidi, if you've been around here, you know Heidi. If you don't know Heidi, probably you're not serving. You need to get to know Heidi. She's amazing. Heidi brought me a dozen donuts, half chocolate iced and half chocolate cream filled. And I ate some, and I took some home with me. And I said, you know what? I'm just going to have them at the house. Do you know that every night this week, this is what I've told myself. After I ate dinner, I'm not getting a donut. Every night this week, I've had a donut. Every night. The other night, I was in bed. Going to sleep. And I was like, man, and it's so frustrating for me. Because it's not, from what I'm wanting to accomplish in life, it's not good for me. But it's frustrating when you know you shouldn't do something, but you keep doing it. And there's some people in this room going, why I tried and it didn't work. I was thinking about this morning. I remember the day my dad taught me how to tie my shoes. I didn't get it the first time. I didn't get it the second time. But eventually, you get to the point where if you keep trying, you can get to the point where you don't even think about it anymore. So if you're frustrated, listen, frustration is simply a sign that you're not comfortable with the way things are. Keep moving forward, because in time you will break through and be able to shake it off. So we got a decision to make. Number 2, we got strongholds to break. Strongholds to break. Strongholds, that's a good charismatic term. All my charismatic friends, stronghold. If you're from a Presbyterian church, I don't know what a stronghold is. I have no idea. And that's fine. We'll talk about it. I'll get you educated, all right? You ready? A stronghold is an area that at first, Satan slowly but surely takes over an area of your life, and then it becomes a stronghold. There is certain things that control you, and it almost seems like there's nothing you can do about it. For example, I use food and football because those are the two things I relate to the most. I've got a sweet tooth that if you took sweets away from me, because of the way I run, I'd probably weigh $150. I really would. But I love sweets. However, I can most of the time resist sweets. But this time of year is the most dangerous time of year for me. You know why? It's Chick-fil-A's peppermint milkshake. Yeah. They're about to come out. I don't know when they're coming out. But for me, it's the most, I remember the first year they came out, and everybody was raving about them, and I'm skeptical. I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever. So I went by, and this is before they put the calories. When they started putting calories up, did that not screw up your life? Because it messed my life up. I was like, you know what? I want the lettuce. Just give me lettuce and celery. It's lettuce and water. Lettuce, celery, and water. So I went by, this is before the calories, and I got a small one. I was like, well, I'm going to try it out and see how it is. And have y'all ever had one of those peppermint milkshakes? Yes. It'll bless you. So the next day I was driving by, I was like, I think I might need to try that out again. And I went by and I said, I need one of the small milkshakes. And she said, did you say a large? I said, I did. I said a large. Every day that week. Every day that week except for Sunday. So on Saturday I had 2. I'm not lying. Every day the next week. Midway through the next week, I was telling somebody, I'm really enjoying those milkshakes. They say, you know one of those milkshakes got about 2,478 calories in it. No, it does not. It's pretty close. Pretty close. After having a milkshake every day for about 2 weeks, I went to the gym one morning. I stepped on the scale, and the scale didn't say anything except no. It just said no. I saw a number that I did not like what I was seeing in front of me, but it was not the scale's fault. How many of us have ever gotten mad at the scale? Stupid scale, it ain't right. We get mad at things when they tell us the truth, don't we? It wasn't the scale's fault, and it wasn't even Chick-fil-A's fault. It was my fault because I'm the one that established or allowed the stronghold to happen in my life. Now, we can laugh about the milkshake, but some of the strongholds we've allowed in our lives aren't funny at all, which is why, for me, I have to go to what the Apostle Paul said in 2 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 4, where he said, we use God's mighty weapons, not worldly weapons, to knock down the strongholds of human reasoning and destroy false arguments. In other words, if the enemy has established a stronghold in your life, that stronghold can be broken. You can shake it off. How? 3 ways. The first way is prayer. Now, when I say prayer, I don't mean now I'll lay me down to sleep. God is great, God is good. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. It's not what I'm talking about. I was watching, so I'm fascinated with YouTube preachers. I'm fascinated. I will not call names, but I'm just fascinated. And I was watching this guy the other day talking about praying for parking places at Walmart. And I was like, first of all, you shouldn't go to Walmart. Second of all, I don't even think God can help you find a parking place at Walmart. And then if he does help you find a parking place, isn't a problem. It's a freaking cashier. That's the problem. Like, if you want to pray for something, pray for anyway. So he's talking about praying for parking places, and I prayed for a good deal on what. And I'm like, you know what? I mean, if you want to pray for parking spaces and good deals, that's fine. But I don't think that's the reason God gave us prayer. Prayer. When I talk about stronghold breaking prayer is when we approach a problem. And don't miss this, because for me, this was a game changer when I figured this out. Prayer isn't, God, change my situation. Prayer is, God, teach me to see it like you see it. Amen. Because when we begin to see like God sees, we're more likely to do what God says. I'll say it again because that was good. When we see as God sees, we're more likely to do as God says. And when we begin to pray, we ask God, God, change my mind, change my heart, change me. Not God, do this, and do this. That's not prayer. That's putting in a commandment. That's treating God like he's a genie in a bottle. But when we begin to pray and say, God, change my heart, change my mind, teach me to see this. Hey, you really want one that'll mess you up? Pray this one. God, teach me to see people like you see people. Yeah, that one, I don't like that one. I started praying it, and God started doing it. And then I had to have compassion most of the time. All right? Prayer. Letter B, confession. You know the reason some people never get past their hurt? Because they never talk about it. How you doing? Fine. I'm fine. I'm just fine. You know what fine stands for? Effed up, insecure, negative, and evasive. That's what it stands for. You can just kind of do the little acrostic right there. That's what it stands for. Fine. Now, I understand why people don't confess in church. You know why you don't confess in church? Because you become a sermon illustration. You don't confess in church because you become the subject of the gossip chain, a.k.a. prayer circle. You don't confess in church because if you talked about what was really going on in your life, you get kicked out. That's why we got second chance. There's nothing you can say here that will surprise us. Oh, I could shock you. Listen, I've been in ministry for 30 years. You cannot shock me. By the way, that thing you're wrestling with, do you really think you're the only person in the world that's ever struggled with that? See, the enemy wants you to believe that. Church should be a place where we're allowed to confess. Church should be a place where we should be able to walk in, and if we're messed up, we say we're messed up. If you had a car wreck and your car turns upside down and you're cutting and bleeding and the ambulance comes and picks you up, you're not going to tell the ambulance driver, hey, let me run by the house real quick. Why? I need to do my makeup. I don't want to go to the emergency room looking all busted up. That's the reason you go to the emergency room, because you're busted up. You know the reason you walked in here? Because you're busted up. Nobody here has it all together. And I'll say this, you've heard me say this before, I'll say it again. Until you get real, you will not be healed. Amen. Until you get real, you will not be healed. Letter C is worship. Worship. Now, this is my favorite. This is what I had to go through. Pastor P, why should I worship? I'm stuck in the middle of horrible circumstances. I get it. I get it. I remember when I was in treatment, it wasn't a Christian retreat center. It was like a New Age type thing. And they had this Native American ceremony that we went to on Sunday mornings, and I was like, sure, I'll go. And I'm sitting there, and there's this white guy. Listen, he's white. He's so white. His name was Eugene, all right? That's how white he was. He was just white. I've never said that. I don't know where that came from. And he is jumping around doing this Native American dance, and I'm like, that's awkward. Then it hit me. He believes in what he's doing. Then I got convicted. Because I'm like, first of all, Eugene don't even know what he's saying right now. But he's convinced that it's hell. And for me, this was my attitude. God, how can I worship you when I'm in the middle of the worst hell I've ever been through? It's a legitimate question. Right? I mean, God, I can worship you when I get the job, but God, I'm unemployed. God, I can worship you when the family's great, but God, when the family's falling apart, it's tough. God, I can worship you when I feel good, but God, I'm wrestling with depression and anxiety. How can I worship when I'm going through hell? It's a legitimate question that all of us have if we hadn't asked it out loud, we've thought it in our minds. Let me tell you how God changed my perspective. It's very simple. Question. If you're driving down the road and you come up to as you're approaching a red light and the light turns red, what do? You stop. Very simple. Very simple. If you're coming up to the light and the light's green, you go, right? If you're approaching the light and the light is turning yellow, what do? Go faster, exactly, all right. The only people that said slow down, you're sitting with your teenagers, but you got them on Life 360, so that's all right. You know if they're running those red lights. Some of y'all, in Life 360, one of the greatest things in the world. Anyway, I'm so glad my dad didn't have it. I wouldn't be alive today. But I remember one time I was approaching I was going down the road, and it was a green light, and I was going, and it turned yellow. And typically, if you're with me, we're going to run the red light, okay? We are getting through it. It is an object that the Lord is going to deliver me through, okay? But on this, I never will forget this. This sticks out of my mind. I can tell you exactly where I was. On this particular day, as the light was turning yellow, something just said, don't go. Like hit the brake, not the gas. It was totally against my instinct. But on that particular day, I just leaned into that for a second and hit the brake. If you would have timed it just right, there was a car over here that ran their red light, and had I had gone, they would have T-boned me and my daughter in the car. So you know what I did in that moment when I saw that? I worshiped. And I didn't worship him because I was in a good situation. I worshiped him because of what he protected me from. If you can't find a reason to worship God today because of where you are, then maybe you could push the pause button and just reflect on the fact that maybe, just maybe, you could worship him today because of what he delivered you from. Because see, you could have been in a hospital. You could have been in a gutter. You could have been in a graveyard. You could have been in a mental institution. But God began to work, and he began to move, and what he's brought you through already would have killed most people, but you're still standing. You've got a reason to worship. You've got a reason to celebrate. So when I say worship, I mean worship him because of what he's brought you through already. Listen, if God didn't give me anything else, he's already given me immeasurably more than all I could have ever asked or imagined. Which leads to number three, is a future to take. The future is yours. This is when people go, man, my life is over, man. When everything went down with me and like my life fell apart, I was 45 years old. 45 years old. You know that's young? Some of y'all it's not, but what do you get here? It's young. Some people in this room, you're convinced because of the hurt that has been attached to you, that you'll never get past it, you'll never get over it, you'll never get through it. And listen, you've chained yourself to the past, which will rob you of a future that really is more than you could ever imagine. See, Isaac told Esau, listen, you're going to struggle. But when you decide, son, when you decide to break free, you'll shake it off. So what happened? Well, we see later on in the book of Genesis, chapter 36, this is the account of the descendants of Esau, also known as Edom. He went to Vegas and got his name changed because he didn't like hair, all right? Esau took his wives. Whoa. Wives. I had people ask me, Pastor P, why do they have lots of wives in the Old Testament? The New Testament's just wife. Wives, wife. What happened? Well, multiple wives mean multiple mother-in-laws. So by the New Testament, they're like, let's just stick with one. We'll just get with one. That was super funny unless you're sitting with your mother-in-law right now. That was weird. I'm sorry about that. His wives, his children, and his entire household, along with his livestock and cattle, all the wealth he had acquired. Whoa. All the wealth? What? He had acquired in the land of Canaan and moved away from his brother Jacob. There was not enough land to support them both because of all the livestock and possessions they had acquired. So Esau, also known as Edom, settled in the hill country of Seir, and eventually Edom became its own nation. You know why? Because Esau decided to shake it off. What my brother did to me was wrong. What my brother did to me hurt me, but it will not define me. And if Esau can shake it off, so can you. I remember when I got back from treatment, I don't, have you ever just, and I'm going to go ahead and answer for you. The answer is yes. Have you ever just been like, God, I need to hear from you. God, just give me something. Then I did something. I'm going to confess it. I don't recommend this. I don't recommend it. And some of y'all going to do it anyway. And it's just like when you sit down with your Bible, y'all remember the Bible with the pages in it? Y'all remember that? Not the one on your phone. You can't do this with the one on your phone. You got to do it with the one with pages in it, all right? And I got one of those Bibles with pages in it. And I said, God, I just need to hear from you, and I'm just going to open my Bible up. Now, don't do that. Listen, I'm telling you I did it, but don't do it. You heard about the guy one time that did it, right? He said, God, I need to hear from you. And he opened the Bible. God, whatever you say, God, he opened it up and said, Judas hanged himself. He shut it up. He's like, oh, snap. I don't see that. So open it back up. God, give me something else. I said, go and do likewise. Oh, snap. God, I'm going to do it one more time. I'm going to do it one more time. Open up. What you're about to do it quickly. Oh, so anyway, that's fine. I don't recommend this. I don't recommend this, but I'm confessing that I did this, okay? I was like, God, I need a word. God, I need a word. God, I need a word, because when you feel like it's over, and there's some people in this room that maybe you've hit a spot where you feel like it's over, where the blind side literally just takes you out, and you can't seem to shake it off. God, I need a word. Help me, God, because I'm wrestling, because I'm struggling. And I opened the Bible, and I saw Isaiah chapter 49, verse 6. He says, you will do more than restore the people of Israel to me. I will make you a light to the Gentiles, and you will bring my salvation to the ends of the earth. Now, that's the verse that my Bible opened to. That's the verse. But that's not what I saw. What I saw was you will do more. Enemy tried to take you out, but I'm stronger than enemy, and you will do more. You lost your job, but you will do more. You lost everything, and you've got nothing, but you will do more. Somebody here needs to hear that word from God today. You got blindsided. You got taken out. You got betrayed. It hurt. It still hurts. You wrestle with what happened to you. You wrestle with what you did to you. You wrestle with what's going on right now. But I'm here to tell you, by the power of Jesus Christ, you can shake it off. And you got to shake it off. The reason why is because he has so much more for you to do. That's why you're here today, for you to hear the message. Listen, you went through hell, and there's hope on the other side. I promise you there's hope on the other side. You will do more if you decide to shake it off. Would you stand in prayer with me, please? Father, I want to thank you today, God, that you give us the strength and you give us the courage, God, to keep pressing on when maybe other people decide it's time to quit. Father, I want to pray for the person in the room that feels trapped, that feels stuck, that is hurt, that feels condemned, weighed down. Father, I want to pray in the name of Jesus right now, God, that they would make the decision in their hearts and their minds that today is the day they're going to shake it off. God, that lies and deception is not going to hold them in this space. God, that they would shake it off. God, that today is the day they're going to talk to somebody about the situation that's got them stuck. They're going to ask for help. God, today is the day they're going to pray and ask you to let them see it as you say. Father, today is the day that they're going to shake off what the enemy tried to place on them. He tried to blindside us, but the blind side turns into a blessing when you get involved, Jesus. May we have the courage today to shake it off. With heads bowed and eyes closed, maybe right now, right where you stand, you need to make that your personal private altar and to say, God, help me to shake this off. Yes, it hurt, but help me to shake it off. Yes, it's frustrating, but help me to shake it off. Maybe you're here today and you've never prayed to receive Christ. Maybe you're in the room and listen, you don't have the power of the resurrected Jesus inside of you, and you need to ask Jesus to come into your life. If that's you, then right where you stand right now, I want to invite you to pray and ask Christ to come in your heart. Just pray this in your heart. Just pray this. Just say, Jesus Christ, I know that I'm a sinner and I need your forgiveness. I believe you died on the cross and rose from the grave to pay for my sin. And right now, Jesus, I receive you into my life. Come in and take over. With heads bowed and eyes closed, if you just prayed that prayer, if you just asked Jesus into your life, would you do me a favor and put your hand up in the air? Put it straight up in the air because I want to pray with you. I want to pray for you. Amen. Thank you, Jesus, so much for these hands in the air right now. Thank you that you change lives. Thank you that you still change lives. Thank you that you are good. Thank you that you are God. Thank you that in you we can shake off anything the enemy tries to put on us. We love you, Jesus. In your name we pray. Amen. Are you glad you came to church today? Me too. Hey, if you're a first-timer, please stop by the first-timers area and say, hey, I would love to see you. Y'all have a great Sunday. God bless.